The sun began to rise as we approached the trailhead. After waking up in the pitch black of night, the group drove for what seemed like hours climbing the mountains as they ventured further and further into the wilderness. One of them looked at their phone, reassuring them that they were now hours out of service range, exactly where they wanted to be for this challenge. The four friends in the car had caught wind of an amateur hiking documentary challenge, with the grand prize being $10,000 and the chance to have your documentary shown at an amateur film festival. The contest specified that it must be a challenging hike. The driver, Jack, believed they were a shoo-in to win, as they all loved hiking, and front passenger Ben had recently invested in a sport camera for other outdoors activities. The two thought the stars were aligning as they got their friends Jessica and Sarah to join in on the enthusiasm. With summer approaching and 2 months left to send in their submission, the group mapped out a trail in the Colorado Rockies. Jessica and Sarah were a little hesitant about how far they would have to travel since this hike was past what they would normally hike, but Jack easily persuaded them, explaining he and Ben needed their help. They packed their gear and planned out their route. They looked at every entrance, possible route, and escape paths before they made their plan final. Everything was accounted for as they headed to bed early, knowing that they wouldn't have much time to sleep that night. With their alarm going off around 2 a.m., the group left the house and headed up to the Rockies. The trailhead was about 4 hours away, which would give them enough time to set up and be hiking by sunrise. Sarah awoke in the car after falling asleep for what felt like a few hours. "Well, good morning, Sarah," Jack said in a funny morning voice. Sarah looked around and saw that everyone else was awake. "How long was I out?" Sarah asked. "Must have been a couple hours at least since we entered the mountain range," Ben replied. "We should be there in about 30 minutes. He continued. Sarah glanced at her watch, which read 6 o'clock just as the first bit of light began to fill the sky. She stared off towards the sunrise as the group got closer to their parking area. As the group pulled their car into the parking lot, they noticed that no cars were parked near the trailhead. There didn't seem to be anyone else besides an old van parked off the road. It looked like it hadn't moved in quite a while. "Awesome! We have this whole area to ourselves. That'll be perfect for our video," Ben exclaimed, breaking the silence that had overtaken the group. "We can get all our gear ready and prepare to start filming our documentary," Jack said as he opened the trunk. Jack began to unload the car. Jessica took out her phone and began taking a few pre-hike pictures, while Ben attempted to be sly as he ducked off to use the bathroom. Sarah looked around as an unnerving feeling overtook her. The silence was nothing new to the mountains, but she couldn't help but looking back at that old van. While it looked like it had been there for a while, the van did not look abandoned. "Does it look like someone is living in that van?" Sarah asked her friends. Ben looked at it and chuckled as he stepped out of the woods. "There's no way anyone is living in that crappy old van, Sarah. Don't make me laugh," he said. Sarah smiled, reassured by Ben's words. "Yes, you are probably right. No one could live in there," she said, turning her focus away from the van. "Come on, everyone. I need some help getting the gear ready," Jack said over a groan as he pulled things out of his car. The group readied their video gear to begin the hike. Sarah couldn't help but glance back at the van. She stared for a second before Jack ushered her forward. "Let's go, Sarah. It's time to start the hike," he said, hurrying her to get moving. Sarah shook her head and began to catch up to Ben and Jessica, who had started to move already. Once they reached the top of the initial small climb, they found their friends patiently waiting to start the adventure. "All right, rolling in 3, 2, 1, action," Jack said as he motioned to his friends. "Hi everyone, I'm Ben and I'm here with Jessica, Sarah, and Jack, who's behind the camera at the Devil's Canyon. Now normally there is a marked trail of switchbacks to climb to the top of the mountain that overlooks the canyon, but due to some heavy rainfall it's closed for some repairs. Parts of it are open, but for our closed sections we'll have to free climb our way to the top." As Ben spoke through his introduction, Sarah took a glance up the steep face of the mountain. It was daunting to have it stand over her. As she was looking up, she noticed some movement through the trees. What looked to be an animal of sorts, way rapidly moving away from them before disappearing under the tree line. Sarah looked back forward at Ben, who was now right in front of Jack, making sure the camera could hear all of his narration. About 15 minutes into the hike, the group reached their first closed section. They readied their gear to begin the first of probably many climbs they would have to do. "We've reached our first area where the trail appears to be closed. There's nothing else to do but climb," Ben explained to the camera, making sure the audience would know the obstacles to come. "There aren't any designated climbing areas here, but there should be enough areas for us to grab onto. Jessica is our most experienced climber here, so she'll be in charge of helping us climb safely," Ben finished as he motioned in Jessica's direction. "Just follow my lead, and if you think something doesn't look safe, test it before you put your weight." "On it," Jessica said as she began to map out the climb. "Anyone know how high this first climb is?" Ben asked. "Well, Ben, if you looked at our rough estimate, it would have said about 30 feet. Jack replied in a sarcastic tone. "I'm more of a personality than a planner. I'll leave all those estimates up to you guys," Ben muttered, unable to find a better comeback. One by one, the group followed the path led by Jessica, using all their strength to pull themselves up the wall. Jack was the last one to reach the next hiking portion. He looked at Ben, who was hunched over, almost gasping for air. "That wasn't so bad, was it, Ben?" he asked. "Speak for yourself. I'm not used to climbs like that," Ben replied, trying to catch his breath. "Well, catch your breath quickly, because that was probably the shortest climbing section we have," Jack informed Ben. Ben rolled his eyes and muttered a few expletives. "All right, well, we better get moving and get back to our video," Ben finally said. "Hey, Ben." "Yeah, Jack. We've been rolling the whole time." "Of course we have," said Ben with a laugh. After catching their breaths, they continued up the trail. As the group climbed further up the mountain, Sarah looked up at the sky and asked, "Hey guys, do you see those clouds rolling in?" The group looked behind them at the menacing clouds approaching the group. Just then, a massive lightning bolt struck a loose tree in a field below. In an instant, the tree was vaporized. "Jesus Christ! We need to get back to our car," Jack yelled, as he quickly panicked, starting back the other way. "What about the rest of the hike?" Ben asked. Jack turned to Ben and shouted, "Screw the rest of the hike. We need to get to cover before that storm kills us." "Let's get out of here," Sarah said. "Ben, we can roll as we get back down. We'll get some crazy footage as we try and escape," Jessica added. "Can we get a move on? We don't have much time," Jack screamed as he began to descend the last climb. Ben got close to Jack to get one last narration in. "All right, everyone, this will be the last narration. A surprise thunderstorm has rolled in, and we caught the footage of a tree in a field being vaporized. We don't have much time, but we need to get back to our car for shelter. Wish us luck, as we hope we can make it back in time. This was our climb with Ben, Jack, Jessica, and Sarah. We hope you enjoyed." Ben finished as the group continued to sprint down the trail. They were about halfway to where they started when the rain began to pour. Another lightning strike in the distance. Jack counted the seconds between them and the thunder. "The lightning is 13 miles away. We have to move quickly," he yelled back over the rain. The group increased their pace, pushing through all physical exhaustion, running on instinct to get to cover. As the group was getting pelted with rain, the wind picked up and blew Jessica back into Ben. Sarah and Jack ran back and pulled them up. "We have to keep going!" Sarah yelled, barely audible over the rain. In the distance, the group saw large branches begin to fall. To the right of them, the rain loosened a rock that rolled down the side of the mountain. "Move now!" Jack commanded. The rain continued to pick up as it began to blind the group. They tried to hold on to each other. A sudden crack lit up the sky. "Look out for that tree!" Ben screamed as he pushed Jessica and Sarah out of the way. The tree crashed next to them, which made Jack fall further down the trail. The rest of the group had long activated their emergency cameras, trying to capture the torrential downpour and the battle for their lives. "Keep going!" Ben yelled to the girls, urging them to go find Jack. They pushed around the fallen tree and shouted, "Jack!" as they barreled down the trail. "I don't see him anywhere!" Jessica yelled. "Be careful! We can't afford to get separated!" Sarah added. Another crash rung out right above them as a boulder fell from the cliff and picked up speed behind them. By the time the group noticed it was too late, The boulder ran straight over Ben and continued crashing through trees around them. "Ben!" Sarah screamed as they tired to get over to him. Just then, a tree fell between them, blocking their path to Ben. As they turned to go around, Jessica stumbled as trees began to crash down around them. As she got up, a tree fell towards her, crushing her head in between the two trunks. Sarah screamed and turned to run as a branch impaled her chest, locking her in place as her life faded. Jack had fallen far down the trail and pushed on to protect himself, assume his friends were all not far behind them. Battered and destroyed, he continued to a metal structure he believed he saw in the distance. As he got closer, it wasn't the car they arrived in, but the van they had noticed near them. Jack attempted to pry to the door open for cover. Suddenly it flew open just as a crack ran through the sky. When they group did not return home that night, their parents reported them missing to the police. They could not contact them but provided their hiking details to help the police search. The officer reported that there was a nasty storm up there and they would get someone out there immediately. The storm rolled in as fast as it rolled out, tearing through the mountain range. The two officers pulled up to the parking lot and saw the abandoned car. "Guess they didn't make it back to their car, Sarge. I hope they are all right." They started looking around the area for any sign of the kids. The sergeant was about to start up the hill when the officer yelled, "Sir, you need to see this." The officer was standing over a boy's body who sustained a fatal gunshot to the face. "Check to see if he has ID," the sergeant said. "Jack Lennox, that's one of the kids. Now let's find the others," the officer replied. "He has a camera recording. Grab it and we'll see if we can salvage some footage." It didn't take long before the two found the other gruesome scene. All four of the kids dead. The sergeant threw up as he saw Sarah impaled. "God, we need to call this in now." The officer ran back to the car and called for immediate backup. They needed help recovering the bodies. The tech team recovered the video from the camera. It revealed Jack's final moments. After he was separated, he pulled himself for a while, trying his best to keep himself going. After yelling for his friends, he continued to barrel himself down the trail. His last moment as he attempted to pry open the van revealed the grim nature of his demise. The van door opened, and just as the camera locked onto a barely visible van occupant. Not even a second after he fired the round right into Jack's face. As Jack fell backwards, the van door shut and slowly rolled away as the rain pelted the camera.